The rain fell hard that night, drumming against the empty windows of a small roadside shop like a cruel reminder of the world's indifference. The wind howled, carrying the scent of wet soil and loneliness. In the dim light of a flickering bulb, 3 children sat huddled together, their faces pale from hunger and exhaustion. They were orphans, lost not just in the storm but in life itself, 2 brothers and a little sister no older than 7. Their parents had died in a truck accident months ago, and since then, every day had been a battle between survival and despair. If you believe in kindness, in the power of second chances, and in how one small act of compassion can change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. This story is one that will remind you that even the smallest hearts can carry the biggest hopes. The eldest boy, Arjun, was 12, but the hard lines on his face made him look older. Life had stripped him of childhood. He sat quietly, clutching his little sister Mira's hand, while his younger brother Kunal leaned against his shoulder, fighting sleep. The shop they had taken shelter in was old, run down, and smelled faintly of kerosene. Outside the storm raged on, their clothes were soaked, their stomachs empty, and the last loaf of bread they'd eaten had been 2 days ago. Yet Arjun's eyes, though tired, still carried a stubborn glint of hope. He couldn't let his siblings see him break. A few miles away, the roar of motorcycle engines echoed down the highway. A group of 10 bikers, leather jackets gleaming with rain and headlights cutting through the darkness, were heading home after a weekend ride. They were a notorious group, tough, loud, the kind of men who drew stares wherever they went. But behind their tattoos and rough voices were hearts that, at least once upon a time, had known compassion. As the storm worsened, the bikers decided to pull over near that very same roadside shop to wait it out. Their laughter filled the air as they parked their bikes under the tin roof, shaking off the rain. One of them, Vikram, the leader of the group, noticed a faint glow from inside the shop. Curious, he peered through the window and saw the 3 small figures curled up in the corner. At first, he thought they were strays or runaways, but something about the way the eldest boy held his siblings made him stop and stare. It was the kind of tenderness that life couldn't fake. Pushing the door open, Vikram stepped inside, the smell of wet leather filling the room. The children stiffened in fear. To them, these men looked like trouble. Loud voices, big boots, and faces shadowed by helmets. Arjun instinctively moved in front of his siblings, his arms spread protectively. Vikram raised his hands, his voice softer than anyone expected. He told the kids they meant no harm and asked why they were there. Arjun hesitated before replying. His voice trembled, but his words were clear. Their parents were gone, he said. They had been walking from town to town, looking for work, for food, for someone who might help. Every door they knocked on had been shut. People were afraid, cautious, unwilling to feed 3 hungry orphans who had nothing to offer in return. The only thing they had left was hope, and even that was running thin. Vikram's chest tightened. Behind him, the other bikers had fallen silent. The rain outside seemed to fade into the background as they listened to the boy speak. Kunal's small stomach growled audibly, and Mira's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Vikram looked around and noticed an old milk crate behind the counter, half full. He picked up a bottle, walked over to the children, and placed it gently in front of them. "Drink," he said softly. For a moment, Arjun didn't move. He looked up at the man suspiciously, afraid this kindness might come with a price. But Mira, too hungry to wait, reached out and took the bottle, her small hands trembling. She drank deeply, milk dribbling down her chin, and for the first time in days, she smiled. Arjun's eyes filled with tears. He whispered a soft thank you, and the bikers exchanged uneasy glances. They couldn't leave these kids there, yet they also knew they couldn't take them along. What could a gang of bikers offer 3 lost children besides a temporary meal and a fading promise? Vikram pulled out his wallet and handed Arjun a few bills. "Take it," he said. "Buy food tomorrow. Find a shelter." But what happened next stunned everyone in the room. Arjun stood up, his little body shaking, and said something that made even the toughest biker swallow hard. He said, "Uncle, please pay for the milk to the shopkeeper tomorrow. We will return the money when we grow up." The words hit like a punch to the heart. The sincerity in his voice, the raw honesty of that promise. It was too much. One of the bikers turned away to hide his tears. Another cleared his throat, pretending the rain had gotten into his eyes. These children, who had nothing, no home, no parents, no security, still had their dignity. They weren't asking for pity. They were asking for a chance to repay kindness someday. That night, the bikers stayed with the children, sharing whatever food they had left. They gave them jackets to keep warm and used their bikes' headlights to light up the small space. They learned more about the children. Their father, a truck driver, had died on duty when his brakes failed on a mountain road. Their mother, unable to bear the grief, had fallen ill and passed away soon after. Since then, the 3 had been wandering, living on scraps, but never once stealing or begging. Arjun always told his siblings that their parents were watching from above, and they had to stay honest, no matter how hard life became. By morning, the storm had cleared, leaving behind a pale pink sky. Vikram and his gang stood beside their bikes, helmets in hand. Arjun and his siblings stood a few feet away, clutching the small bag of food the bikers had packed for them. None of them spoke for a long time. Then Vikram reached into his jacket and pulled out a small patch, his biker insignia, a symbol of brotherhood. He pinned it to Arjun's shirt and said, "This means you've got brothers on the road now. Wherever you go, remember that." The kids watched as the bikers roared away, their engines fading into the distance. Arjun stood there, clutching that patch like a treasure, unaware that this one encounter would change the course of their lives forever. Years passed. The world moved on. But the memory of that night stayed alive in the hearts of everyone involved. Arjun and his siblings found shelter in an orphanage run by a kind woman named Sister Maria, who gave them food, education, and, most importantly, hope. Arjun studied hard, determined to make his parents proud and repay every kindness they had received. Meera grew into a bright, gentle young woman who loved painting, and Kunal became a mechanic, fascinated by engines, just like the bikes he had once seen glistening in the rain. Meanwhile, the bikers went on with their lives. Vikram's group began doing charity rides, raising money for children's homes and hospitals. They never forgot the 3 orphans who had taught them the meaning of humility and gratitude. That night had softened something in them. They had started as thrill seekers, but slowly became guardians of the roads they once ruled recklessly. One sunny afternoon, about 15 years later, the same group of bikers, older now, slower perhaps, but still united, rode through a small town near Pune. They stopped at a roadside school where a charity event was taking place. Children ran around, laughing, and volunteers served snacks and milk. Vikram leaned on his bike, smiling, when suddenly a young man walked up to him. He wore a simple white shirt, his eyes bright, his smile familiar. "Do you remember me?" the young man asked softly. Vikram blinked, searching his memory. Then he saw it, the same glint of determination, the same honesty in those eyes. "Arjun?" he whispered in disbelief. The young man nodded, his voice trembling. "Yes, sir. I told you we'd return the money when we grew up." He handed Vikram an envelope. Inside was not just the cost of that bottle of milk, but a donation check for the bikers' charity fund, enough to sponsor the education of 10 children. Tears welled up in Vikram's eyes. The other bikers gathered around, speechless. They hugged Arjun, who told them how he and his siblings had built their lives from nothing, how Kunal now owned a small garage, and Mira taught art to orphans. He said that it was their kindness, that one rainy night, that gave him the courage to keep going when everything seemed lost. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The tough bikers who once laughed at everything now found themselves crying openly. They had always believed that their world was one of engines and asphalt, but that day they realized it was also about hearts and humanity. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in gold and crimson, the sound of laughter and engines filled the air again. The bikers and the now grown orphans rode together through the town, a symbol of how one act of kindness could echo through time, connecting lives in ways no one could have imagined. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Help spread the message that compassion never goes unnoticed. It always finds its way back, even after years. And before this story ends, I want you to comment below, what's the kindest thing a stranger has ever done for you? Your words might just inspire someone to do the same for another. Because in a world that often forgets kindness, the smallest act, a bottle of milk, a promise, a helping hand, can become a light that never fades. And somewhere, in the whisper of the wind or the rumble of an engine on a lonely road, that light still shines. For the orphans who grew up, for the bikers who learned to feel again, and for every heart that still believes in goodness.